What's up guys, my name is Ace, and it's been quite a long time since I've gone over my top 5 class setups in CoD WW2, so I decided to share that with you guys today. Keep in mind, this is something that's always changing as the meta changes, and just as my preferences change throughout the year, so I want to always keep you guys updated. As always with these videos, these are based on my personal playstyle, my personal preference. Feel free to make changes, don't necessarily just copy and paste this and call it a day. Sometimes you need to make changes based on your personal preferences. So first up, let's have a look at my go-to rushing SMG class. This is actually with the Grease Gun. The Grease Gun got a buff about a month ago now, or 3 weeks to a month ago, to its recoil. It's got a lot more predictable recoil now. It doesn't have those random shots nearly as often that just kick completely to the side and throw you off target. It's much more consistent now, so you're able to challenge gunfights not only up close, but also you can kind of extend a little bit into the rifle ranges. In addition to that, with this buff that we got to the Grease Gun a little while back, it decreased our aim down sight as well as our sprint out time, so it's more in line with the other SMGs in this game, and therefore it's actually faster than rifles, unlike what it used to be where it was right in line with the rifles in this area. With this one, I'm running Quick Draw, which I always run on my SMGs because your aim down sight time's cut in half with Quick Draw as long as you're not breaking your sprint by aiming down sight. Sometimes I'll swap this out for extended mags, but recently I've been really liking the grip attachment on the Grease Gun. I don't use it on many guns, but the Grease Gun is one of the few exceptions that I use it on, and I just find this makes it a lot more consistent, especially when I'm trying to stretch those ranges out a little bit. My basic training on this class is Hunker, and you're going to be seeing this on quite a few classes here just because the nades are so prevalent in this game. They're all over the place, everybody's got one, and Hunker is practically a crutch perk if you want to be an aggressive player, especially if you're playing objective game modes. Our secondary is the 9mm SAP with extended mags, and this is just kind of my go-to secondary, and our lethal is a sticky grenade, which is also kind of my go-to. So that's it for my go-to aggressive SMG class. Now let's move on to my go-to rifle class. This is when I want to hang back a little bit more and pick people off at longer ranges. With this one, we're using the Volkssturmgewehr, and we've got quick draw, extended mags, and high caliber with the infantry division. This gun is an absolute headshot machine, and therefore high caliber is just amazing on it. That way it's going to be just 2 shots to the body, 1 shot to the head, and it'll be a kill at almost every range that you'll find yourself in. The only thing to keep in mind with this weapon is you want to make sure that you're not sprinting into gunfights and you're just playing a little bit more passive than you would normally play because you have slightly slower aim down sight and sprint out times. Our basic training, secondary, as well as lethal are exactly the same as the first class for the same reasons. Moving on to the next class, this is an alternative rifle class that I really like using. I've really been enjoying the M1 Garand lately, and I actually just got the Rookie 2 heroic variant as well, and the iron sights on this are excellent to use, so I'm really enjoying myself with this. You can absolutely melt people with the extremely fast time to kill as long as you're hitting your shots effectively. Once again, we're using infantry. I've got quick draw, extended mags, and grip on this one because with the M1 Garand, for your second consecutive shot, the grip attachment definitely helps a noticeable amount, and usually that's what you want to be doing is just firing 2 shots at your enemy and getting that kill. And again, there's no more changes to the rest of the class there. That stuff's pretty standard on a lot of the classes that I have, at least up until this point. One thing I wanted to point out that you guys might not have known is if you guys want the iron sights for the M1 Garand that I have on the Rookie 2 variant, you can actually get the Rookie variant by just using armory credits. If you go into the Quartermaster, you complete the collection for the M1 Garand, the Rookie is the reward for that, so you'll end up getting that. You get the iron sights at least. It won't be quite as shiny or anything, but at least you'll get that excellent iron sight that I really enjoy. Moving on to the next class, we're going to be mixing things up quite a bit with this one. This is kind of my go-to pistol class at the moment, which is really important for the Resistance event because your daily contracts involve using the Resistance division as well as a pistol for a certain number of kills. So this is the one that I'm using every single time I'm working on that contract. With this one, we have the Resistance division. Our primary weapon is pretty much irrelevant. I like using an SMG at least so I can swap back to my pistol and use my instant reload technique that I shared a little while ago. If I can remember, I will leave a link to that video in the description below. But with this one, we're using Shifty, which gives us unlimited ammo for our pistol, and it allows us to quickly swap to our primary and swap back to our secondary to get a nearly instant reload. With our secondary, this is the most important part. We've got the 9mm SAP with steady aim, high caliber, and extended mags. These are just the best attachments that I've found for this particular pistol, and for me at least, I feel like this is just as powerful as many of the primaries in the game. I can very comfortably run around with this pistol and do just fine. Moving on to the 5th and final class that I'm going to be sharing for you guys today. Keep in mind, of course, I have plenty of other classes in the background that I use, like a sniper class, shotgun class, everything like that. I just wanted to share the ones that I feel are most relevant to the current meta. This is with requisitions. I feel like everybody should have one of these ready to go these days if you play objective game modes. It's not really worth it if you just play like team deathmatch or something, but if you're playing something like domination or especially demolition, having a class that has requisitions is pretty much a must-have in my opinion. I'm not saying you necessarily have to use it every single game, but if you happen to get a lobby, which is very common, where somebody else is running requisitions on the other team, this is pretty much the only effective counter that I've found to the requisitions basic training skill, is to simply run it yourself. So with this one, I'm using the armored division so I can still play the objective and not worry too much about nades and everything like that. We've got a PPS H41 as our primary with quick draw and extended mags. Our basic training is requisitions, and our secondary is once again the 9mm SAP with extended mags. Lethal is a sticky grenade. With this particular setup, it's also really important to note that the score streaks that I will set up when I'm planning on using this is usually something I'll switch to when I lose a really close game to somebody that was running requisitions, and I want to kind of get them back the next game. So what I'll do is I'll pop on flak guns so I can counter their requisition streaks. Then I will run paratroopers as well as carpet bomber or firebombing run. Either one of those will do. And I feel like this is just extremely important if you want to counter people that have requisitions, and it often decides games, especially in demolition. With the way that demolition is currently balanced, attackers always seem to have a very clear advantage, and therefore, for the most part, games will tend to go into overtime. And almost every game of demolition that I've ever played, even if I'm playing with a full party of organized people, it almost always ends up going to overtime just because attackers always seem to have a significant leg up in that game mode. And once you get to overtime, that's where requisitions basically decides who wins the game. If one team is using requisitions and the other one isn't, the team with requisitions simply wins the game at that point. And therefore, lately, I basically don't touch demolition without running requisitions because I want to win the game. So with this one, I try to be the first one to get those flat guns. I try to save all my streaks for overtime because I always assume that we're going into overtime. And then I just make sure that I try to call my flat guns in before the enemy team can call their streaks in with their requisitions. And this will often make the difference between a win and a loss in the game. Now, I know last week I made that video talking about the fact that I don't like requisitions in this game. My opinion on that hasn't changed at all, but if you can't beat them, join them. So that's why I always have these classes ready to go so I can counter those guys that are running it themselves. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for my top 5 current classes that I'm using in CoD World War II. I'd love to know in the comment section below, what is your current go-to class in this game? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.